Leadership is a big door, but it's a big door that swings on the small hinge of character. Hi everyone, Chris NATZKE here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. A couple of years ago, I was doing some work around the house and I had the television on in the background, and I have to admit I was half listening to an interview by retired Admiral James Stavridis. Admiral Stavridis was the NATO Supreme Commander in Europe and had a very prestigious career, military career that I think lasted around 35 to 37 years. And again, I was half listening to the interview when all of a sudden he said something that totally stopped me in my tracks. He said, leadership is a big door, but it's a big door that swings on the small hinge of character. Wow, right? And it got me thinking, we're at a time in our lives, in our society, in our country's history where maybe we don't have what we believe is the leaders that show the best amount of character. Now, there's really nothing we can do, of course, outside of electing our leaders, but one of the things we can always do anytime we want to see change in the world, I believe it always starts with ourselves, because our leaders are nothing more than a reflection of us. So how do we do that? How do we bring a greater degree of character to our own personal leadership, to the leadership of the people that follow us, as well as our self-leadership and how we lead ourselves through our own lives? So what I've done is I've come up with an acronym. I've created character as an acronym, and it's got 9 letters. So I'm going to share 5 of them with you today. This is going to be the first of a 2-part series of the attributes of leadership that I believe are really, really bound in character. And so first off, C. C stands for a commitment to serve. And I've always loved the quote by William Arthur Ward that goes something like this: you must be silent before you can listen. You must listen before you can learn. You must learn before you can prepare. You must prepare before you can serve. And you must serve before you can lead. You must serve before you can lead. I think sometimes we see leaders in our society and we wonder if all they're in it for is their own gratification. But one of the things I know is that when we focus truly on serving others, that when we do that, all the other accolades and all the other accoutrements, if you will, come just naturally. So where do you have an opportunity in your own leadership to really focus on serving? Now, that doesn't mean enabling people. What it means is helping them become the very best they can be so that they can then lead themselves. So where are you committed to serving? H. H stands for honoring your word. In what I think is a landmark article that was entitled Integrity Without Nothing Works, author Michael C. Jensen, makes the distinction between honoring your word and keeping your word. Now, we all, as good people, want to keep our word, right? But the fact of the matter is sometimes life happens. And even though we said with the greatest of intentions that we wanted to do something, follow up with something, make something happen, arrive to something on time, we don't. So keeping our word 100% of the time is almost impossible. But honoring our word is this. It's keeping our word to the very best of our ability. But then when we don't, is make sure that we acknowledge it. Make sure we apologize for it. Make sure we make the changes necessary so that we can correct that behavior in the future. Honoring our word. Because all of us know that we make mistakes, but even small things in our lives, like if you say you're going to meet someone at noon for lunch and you show up at 10 after, you've broken your integrity, as small as that seems. I know I've done it myself, right? But what happens is when we don't acknowledge that and we ignore it, what happens is it becomes a pattern. And pretty soon keeping our word means nothing. So where do you have an opportunity to honor your word, even the smallest sense of things? A. A stands for attainment. Now, I want to create a distinction here because I got this from another author, Lanny Basham, and it was a book that he did on parenting. And what he talked about is that so many times when we are in leadership positions, either for ourselves or we're looking at others who are following us, is we're looking at simply their accomplishments. And we pay no mind to to nothing else than what they've accomplished. But the important part of leadership is helping people understand that it's not just about their accomplishments, it's also about who they're becoming on the road to those accomplishments. It's who we're becoming on the road to our accomplishments. So attainment basically is accomplishments plus becoming. So as you're on this road to making big things happen in the world, when you're on the road to making big things happen as a leader, who are you also becoming? And are you sacrificing who you're becoming because you want to accomplish big things? Because the best leaders are the ones that can combine those two and attain great things. Number next is R. And R stands for rising to the occasion. And I'm going to, if my computer comes up here, I'm going to read a quote by Martin Luther King. Excuse the glasses here. But Martin Luther King Jr., who says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in moments of challenge and controversy." Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes leadership is tough. Sometimes it means standing up for what you know is right, even when it's not popular. Even when you're under the gun, you're under the spotlight. What it means is you rise to the occasion and you hold true to your integrity. You hold true to your word because you know, even though it may not be popular, it's right. And in the long run, that's the best option for all of us. So rise into the occasion. And our final letter is our second A, and that's admit when you're wrong and then move to correct it. I mean, we all know as leaders, we're going to be making mistakes. In fact, I know I've made plenty of them along the way. But I think what we do is when we don't acknowledge the mistakes that we've made, we gloss over them, we ignore them, or we even deny them, what happens is the people that we're leading, they start to, the trust that they have for us begins to dwindle. And then they begin to replicate that behavior because they think that's what leadership is about. But what true leaders do is when they mess up is they admit it. They admit it full out, and then but importantly what they do is they say, this is what I'm going to do to correct it. I'm going to do it to correct it in the moment and also do my very best not to replicate that in time going forward. You see, when we do that, what we do is we give others permission to take risks and make mistakes, but then also acknowledge those and learn from them. That's what I believe true leadership is. So anyway, there you have it, my friends. There are my first 5 of 9 elements that I think are derived from the ability of showing true character in leadership. So join me next week when I go through the final 4 letters, and just always remember that leadership is a big door, but it's a big door that swings on the hinge, on the small hinge of character. So this has been Chris NATZKE with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.